big subjects for the voters is the cost of living, and one thing for Sun readers is fuel duty. Will you have drivers, hauliers, people on the school run at the forefront of your mind when you come to making decisions when it comes to fuel duty and at the budget?
Yes, just as we as a government have done for the last 2 years. We've already said there'll be no increase in fuel duty this year. I know the cost of fuel is still high. I'm very aware of the Middle East, as many people are, and the way that that's putting pressure on prices at the pumps, prices in the supermarket, just prices on stalls. So we take that into account. I'll take that into account as we go into the budget. But also as a government, we've just launched the Fuel Find service. It's a new website, government website. People can go on and check the price of petrol and diesel around in their local area, and for petrol stations they have a legal obligation to report increases or changes in fuel prices within 30 minutes. So bang up to date. It's helping save people as they try and fill up their car or their van.
And the other big potential increase could be the 5p increase when it comes to January. You'll make all those decisions at the budget, and you'll be thinking of, our readers when you come to making that.
Those will be decisions, yes. Decisions I take at the budget, I'll announce on the 28th of October. But I'm very conscious of the Sun's championing of fuel duty, fuel prices. And this isn't just a cost of living, this is a cost of business for many. When 5 million people are self-employed, for many of them the cost of living is also the cost of business, and fuel's at the heart of that.
Now, there have been lots of sort of headline grabbers and big decisions, big announcements since Andy Burnham came to power, but fundamentally the economy has been struggling for a while. Is it time to level with the public and say there's just not going to be any quick fix? New Chancellor, new Prime Minister, but no quick fix. It's going to take time.
Yeah, I don't think I have ever been anyone that's given people false hope, made false promises, and having been Defence Secretary, I'm very aware of how the uncertainties in the world, the rising dangers and threats, the conflict we've got now in Europe, in Ukraine, in the Middle East, that's putting a lot of pressure. It's putting pressure on inflation, it's putting pressure on interest rates, it's putting pressure on our growth. And this is a tough time. It's a tough time in the world, but we've got good reasons also to be hopeful in this country. We've seen in recent months, we've seen rising levels of business investment. That tells me that there's confidence to work with, to reinforce, to try and support. And you'll have heard me and Andy Burnham not just talking about the cost of living, but the cost of business as well. And as Chancellor, I know that business need a bit of breathing space, just like we do as households, from those cost pressures.
With money tight, you've got the Iran war, low growth, low productivity. Is it time to sort of tell the public that it's going to be a hard budget, level with the public, and tell the people to prepare themselves, because there could be tax rises coming?
Do you know, the British public aren't fools. They know things are tough. They feel it. They see it in their families. They see it in their pay packets. They know that they can't afford some of the things that they would want to, or maybe did 5-10 years ago. And this is a long haul for many families, just as it is as businesses coming through this. But we can see businesses beginning to invest, beginning to grow, beginning to believe that there is hope, and that's part of our mission in government now. We want to drive some of that activity, that growth into every postcode, and it's things like this 20% cut in business rates for pubs, for social clubs, for live music venues, the sort of places that make a town not just the place we live, but the place we love. And I mean, we're sitting in Chantry Brewery here. Chantry supplies about 100 pubs in the wider South Yorkshire region. And this is just a way of saying, we know there are pressures you're under. This is a way we can help at the margins. And I want people to feel that this is a government that recognises those pressures, will give breathing space to households and to businesses where we can. But fundamentally, you've heard Andy Burnham and me talk about the devolution that's required to see growth across the UK in every postcode. Talk about the backing of innovation, particularly small businesses that have the potential to grow but perhaps lack the confidence and belief in the future. And that's part of government's job, to try and set the the framework, despite the pressures that give people a sense that, this is a country with great potential that's on the up again.
Yeah. And other people are concerned about is the welfare budget. And by the time of the next election, do you think will the welfare bill be going up or going down rather than up? And our readers are incensed by that.
Well, your readers will probably, each and every one of them, have in their family or people that they know and their neighbours one of those million youngsters, 18 to 25, that aren't in work, aren't in training, aren't in education, in many cases have never worked, and this is a huge waste of their individual potential, but the potential of the talent we need in this country at work, being creative, starting up businesses for the future. And so that's why we put a lot of store on the report we're doing at the moment with Alan Milburn, and the requirement to make sure that we can help get many of these youngsters and those coming onto this in the future onto the right track of work, of fruitful futures for them and for the country.
With net migration going down, is it right that we should, or is it the correct way that those people should be trained up to actually fill a lot of those vacancies or those jobs that come up?
100%. For too long, that easy trade-off this country has made about bringing people in, levels on Boris Johnson, and after that the Conservative governments that just ballooned as they lost control of any sense of the border. We've got to have a fair migration system, but fundamentally we've got to make sure that where we've got jobs, where we've got businesses in the future, where we've got good services that we need to provide for people, we want first and foremost British youngsters and British people being able to be trained and doing those jobs.
Now, when it comes to defence spending, are you ready to those tough conversations with colleagues to try and find that extra money, whether it comes to the Defence Investment Plan or trying to get a pathway to 3%? Are you ready to have those tough conversations with colleagues?
Both I and the Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, have said that we'll fully fund this new Defence Investment Plan. That, by the way, is extra investment needed to deal with the threats that we face as a country, but comes on top of, in the last 2 years as a Labour government, a record increase in defence spending since the end of the Cold War. We've got to do more. We've made a commitment as a nation, not just to 3%, but to 3.5% of what we earn to NATO by 2035, and I've said, look, we'll do what we need to fund the Defence Investment Plan at the budget, and next year when we deal with the longer term decisions in the spending review, we will set out a clear path for this country for the first time on how we meet that 3.5% commitment and how we set a target for 3% on the road to that.
Now, we're in this fantastic brewery here, and a big part of the hospitality industry. Do you have any sympathy for hospitality firms? Do you feel for them? Because they're asking for a VAT cut to come in line with European countries. Is that something you're willing to sort of look at?
Look, I recognise and have sympathy for the way that any businesses at the moment are dealing with the cost of business, just like most households are dealing with the cost of living pressures. And we can't relieve those pressures either for business or for households entirely, but we want people to recognise that we understand those. You've heard the Prime Minister and me talking about trying to create some breathing space for families, breathing space for businesses. We've done that with the taking VAT off electricity bills this winter. We're doing that with 20% off business rates for pubs and social clubs, live music venues next year. You can see how that gives a great local firm like Chancellor, a brewery that is got 3 pubs itself, supplying another 100. It gives them a bit of a lift, a sense that there are opportunities for the future, and that's what I want businesses right across the board, not just in hospitality, to start to feel.
And you're willing to go further on business rates more generally for the wider business community?
So look, any decisions on business rates or on any other tax rates, as well as the plans for the future and for the future economy, all set out in the budget.
Yeah. And one thing is, businesses and business leaders have complained about, national insurance rises, the rise in minimum wage. Are you going to be helping, particularly young people start a business, to get into that business field? Why should they be, a nation of risk takers? Why should we be a nation of risk takers if the conditions aren't right? Will you be willing to do something about it?
Yeah, there are two things that sort of really are in my mind here. First of all, Britain's a country where we're the third most creative, inventive for starting new firms. But we're really poor at being able to invest in, support and see those small, brilliant startup, great ideas, new innovation, really scale up. So you saw me as Defence Secretary have a special plan and fund in which we found new defence tech companies, the unicorn companies of the future, and we've already seen one of those in the last 6 months alone become $1 billion company. So I'd like to see that writ across. The other is a real concern for this generation of, let's say, 20 to 40-year-olds who are feeling the pressure of housing costs, in some cases overhanging university tuition fees, difficulty in finding opportunities. Those are the people that we want with great ideas, being ready to take the risks of starting business. And otherwise we're missing a potential generation that will lead Britain in the future.
And lots of pressures on you to find money to fund all sorts of things across government. There was the incident last year where sort of Labour MPs, they rebelled on the welfare spending. Are you prepared to take your MPs on?
I think what you're seeing with the work we're now doing with the 18 to 25-year-olds is a sign that no government and no country can see an ever-rising welfare bill for the longer term. I'm determined to deal with that, and I think the common sense arguments, as well as the concern for those people at the moment that are often condemned to a life of being dependent on benefits, isn't good for them and isn't good for the rest of us.
Yeah. One issue that's also the paper's been looking at is the overnight visitor levy, the so-called holiday tax that we've been writing about. Do you think there should be some exemptions, or should mayors not go as far as taxing people to go on holiday if they're staying in campsites or something like that? Like those sort of,
Well, look, we're dealing with the detail of how we design this. But I think the important principle is the one to start with, which is that by allowing, particularly we start with the strongest mayoral authority areas, the ability to make those decisions and introduce, let's say, and call it an overnight visitor levy. They then have a source of revenue that they can use to get investment, and they can make the decisions then about the transport, the housing, the business support for their areas that's needed in the future. And this devolution that you've heard the Prime Minister and me talking about, the decision making, driving power down into every area, is the way that in the end we will help get the growth in every postcode and lift that sense of hope in every area.